Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 295 of Kouryer Podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Nicolas Lizotte. He's a senior concept artist and illustrator from Montreal, Canada, and we're getting really close to episode 300, the end of the season. And again, as always, as I mentioned in the previous episode, please cast your votes in the comments down below for the color of the next season. Like the first season was green, second season was blue, this season was yellow. So starting from episode 301 onward till episode 400, the color will be decided soon. So some close ties are orange, purple, red, but I would love to know what you guys think. Please leave your suggestions in the comments down below. And with that out of the way, I also need to mention in the captions of this episode, you can find the ID to his Instagram account and also the link to his ArtStation portfolio as well, our guest, of course. And with that, speaking of our guest, I actually have a question for you. What color do you think should be the next theme of the graphic theme of the podcast?
I like yellow gold, yellow orange. So
I mean, we did yellow, dude. We did 95 episodes with yellow. We need
yeah.
Every 100 episodes, it should change.
Go all black, everything black, fonts, background, everything.
That's gonna be tricky. Like from a jump from yellow to black also is kind of peculiar. I don't know. Like a lot of people have been saying purple, but mostly girls say that. I personally like orange, the idea of orange, but red also is a good idea. I think yellow, orange, red, purple would be a good order. What do you think?
Sure.
All right. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. But all right, so let's start off with the signature question of the podcast, which I always start off each episode with, which is, tell us about your origin story. Basically, what's led you to choose art as your main path in life? Like, how did your art journey begin? Basically, that's the thing we want to
know. Professionally, I guess I could say by accident. I mean, like everybody, probably. When I was a kid, I was into drawing, arts and crafts, Lego, all of that stuff, building, creating stuff, and then eventually that develops in high school, university. So when I was going into university, I was piloting planes. I sort of tried to volunteer for the Army. That didn't go as planned because I went through the consulate, which was a mistake. But so I ended up going to university in architecture. I graduated. I did a master's, bachelor's and a master's here in Montreal. When I graduated, I worked for the city for quite a bit. And then I went to Vietnam. There was this big, so my thesis was on bioclimatic architecture, so like eco architecture, if you will, and we had this big project over there. And at that point, I sort of thought I wanted to do something sort of more creative, maybe have more control over what I was doing. And so I just came back to Montreal and started from scratch in concept art, because the video game industry was kind of a big thing in Montreal. So that was kind of my door in. I really liked comic books when I was younger. I tried that, but dude, that's hard, man. You have to be good at everything all the time and quick. And so I thought maybe concept art was better for me because it was more design than art. So you'd have to think about things, try to solve problems, answer questions, that type of thing. And I liked it. So,
That's an interesting story. And by the way, like what was the year that you actually started working as a concept artist in Montreal? Like, I'm kind of curious.
I'm gonna say 2011, but I could very well be wrong.
Around those times, early 2010s.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, interesting. And how, like, in your experience, how has the industry changed? Like, in what major ways has the industry changed, like, from then till now? I mean, obviously there's like some obvious answers here, but um, from some, what are some like things that have changed, but most people don't really talk about it these days? You know?
Well, I mean, specifically for concept art, the method has evolved quite a bit. You've integrating quite a few different programs and such, so it's quite different. When I got hired, apparently the reason I got hired was because I did everything manually, and the art director liked that I wasn't photo bashing. And then, after like a year's experience, like I figured out, well, if I want to be quicker and more effective, I have to start photo bashing. So I integrated that, and then a few years later, there was more of an emphasis on maybe 3D, and then of course you get into that, and the programs evolve, and then ZBrush comes in and all this stuff. So like the technical aspect of it's changed. I don't know. I kind of go with the flow.
All right, I like that answer. And well, here's another question I want to ask you. In your experience of like working professionally as a concept artist, like what are some of the most important lessons you've learned that you could tell? Basically, what are the most important lessons you can tell us from your experience to anyone who's listening to this episode and are going to and are basically junior concept artists who want to get into the industry and basically they're journeymen. So what do you have to tell them? Some of the most important things that I think they should consider.
Well, okay, let's approach this from sort of getting a job. So portfolio is king, right? So you have to like work on that. And as an art director, what I would want to see is sort of your process to see that you're actually thinking of a like a holistic thing. So maybe you design a character, then you see multiple variations, and why did you pick this one? And then you work on the weapons or the vehicle, and then you're sort of telling a story through the whole thing. That would be interesting to me. Not only sort of the render of it, but the ideation behind it. And sort of behind that, practice, man. Like just put in the hours. That's if you don't want to do this enough, you're not going to put in the hours, and you're probably going to fail because it is competitive, and the future could be looking bleak. So you're gonna want to latch on and hope the ride goes well. I'm gonna say that's my answer.
That's awesome because like I was just like something that's really like helps me put this into perspective is, for example, right now there are like a lot of Discord servers right now for people who want to learn, who want to collaborate, who want to do stuff together, like I mean, for concept art, for anything, for any position basically in the industry, right? And when you go into those big servers, there are like 10,000, 12,000, 20,000 artists or junior artists who want to get into the industry. And just look at that huge number. If you're listening to this right now and I do this myself because I'm a junior 3D environment artist. I'm still working on my portfolio. So I kind of have this try to instill this mindset and kind of perspective on myself as well. Like I'm like, all right, imagine there's like 1,000 really good positions in the whole world for this position. Let's even 4,000, not 4,000, 400. I mean, like very top good positions with good perks, benefits, and there are all these 20,000 people in this Discord server who are have the same passion as you, same interests as you, same maybe they may be talented in some things, less talented in some things. You're talented in some things, less talented in other things. And yeah, it's a huge competition at the end of the day. Like I don't want to sound it might some people might say, oh, this is what I'm saying sounds toxic, but no, it's actually the truth. So if you want to be one of the people who will be on that really good positions, you gotta do something that the rest don't, and that usually for most cases is just working harder and more than other people because yeah, we're lazy. beings, to be honest, myself included, by nature.
But I mean, even if you do put in a lot of effort, it's still you're competing against some really good artists out there. So you have to have that. Sometimes it's I wouldn't call it luck, maybe serendipity. You have to sort of match with what the art director is looking for. And sometimes it just clicks, and it could be like I said. Sometimes maybe it's not necessarily your illustration skills or whatever, but it's uh, I don't know. He saw in your portfolio that I don't know. You found these riffs and the research is whatever. So if you sort of expose the process, you might help you out. I think it helped me out. I can't say for sure, but I mean it's definitely part of the job. I mean it's a massive part of the job, right? So um, I think you can't lose by sort of giving more info, um, trying to catch a fish, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. And the stuff I said are pretty general. Like, and I brought, things and tips and advices. Like, I mean, obviously that's not necessarily enough, but yeah, it's kind of like, very obvious. Like, you should have an edge to yourself, like stand out some way with anything. Maybe you're super good at perspective. Maybe you're super good at like lighting or color or something, just make sure you stand out, I guess. Like, I think that should be a really good tip.
If yeah, I mean absolutely. If you can not be generic, so you might not be a good fit, but at least you'll get noticed, and like you will fit somewhere at some point. Like somebody's going, oh, like
Exactly.
I don't know, I like this or that. So
Yeah, and so here's another question that I'm always, like really interested to ask concept artists, which is how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new piece or project? Like basically, what does the structure of your pipeline look like when it comes to like, working on a design?
um so yeah, I don't know, which is not a good answer, but there is. So the first thing you want to do, well, the first thing I do is a bunch of research. Like that's a lot of the work, trying to understand exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, try to get comparatives, what's been done, what worked, what hasn't worked, sort of field work, if you will. So that's a mainstay. I'll always do that. And afterwards, uh, well, okay, if it's uh, if it's professionally, so if I'm working with an art director, I'll usually try to dish out maybe 30, 50 sketches. I mean, this is derogative, but I'll call them garbage, and that's important to me because if you start putting some love into it, I become super slow and ineffective. And if you're just thinking, no, this is trash, screw it, and you just do another and another and another. Like if I have to sort of switch my brain into that mode. But if you can do that, then I think that helps. And the art directors seem to like that. You can sort of Frankenstein pieces together afterwards. You could get discussions going. Sometimes the ideas are too far out, but like they still like it. Like, oh, maybe we could do something else with this, right? And then you end up creating a race of aliens on a new planet or something. So, um, yeah, those are probably the two important parts. And then afterwards, it's rendering, however, polishing, rendering, developing the idea, however seems appropriate in the moment. Um, so probably the flexibility is more, well, in my method. Let's call it a method. It'll come in the end. So yeah.
All right. And speaking of design, actually, like, that's kind of interesting. Like on your highlight of your stories, there's like a character piece you did of Star-Lord, I think, for the Guardians of Galaxy
Oh yeah.
game. And that's, I think, was the finalist. Did that won the Concept Art Association like award, or was that a finalist? Like, I really
No,
couldn't.
I was nominated. So there was two. mm, I'm gonna say 2022. I could be wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was cool. I didn't win, but I was happy to be nominated. It was a cool project to work on. That whole like how they sort of twisted the Star-Lord name out of the when they started floating that idea in the studio. That it was like his childhood favorite metal band and all that shit.
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna really work. I'm happy they went with it, and I must have been vocal because I got to work on that part quite a bit, so that was cool.
Yeah, actually, that's actually a good segue to the next topic because I wanted to ask you like specifically about working on that project as well. And actually, the way I even found your portfolio was through there was a post on our session. It was a Guardians of Galaxy Art Blast, and your works was among them as well. And I was like, huh, this looks cool. And that's how I found you. I messaged you, but how was like working on that project was like, any do you have any interesting, stories about working on that project? Like, any um cool memories?
Um, well, I mean, like the concept art team was pretty tight. I still hang out with most of like I used to hang out with Francesco. We were talking about him before the podcast. I think he was like one of your last or latest
Yeah, episode 290. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so he moved up north, so I don't really get to see him much anymore. But yeah, so that was cool. The like I mean, Guardians is kind of a silly Star Wars, so I thought that was awesome. And Marvel gave us, I think they gave us enough leeway to sort of do what we wanted. So that was there's a lot of good things going on there. Um, but yeah, probably what I liked the most was when I started work on this uh, teen Star Lord and sort of developing that childish character, his room, his plugging in all sorts of things in there, trying to hint at you know his future character. Then Steve, so he was audio director. Um, they actually came out with they wrote and performed an album for Star Lord. So on top of the tracks they licensed in the game, there's the actual like Star Lord band, which was I thought was cool. So I ended up working on the album cover, doing sort of the cassette. I forget what you call them.
The
The thing
album
that you
cover
flip
of
out.
the
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
then and then so when that came out, they made a cartoon out of it, like for the video, like an '80s cartoon. It's like so there was just ramifications going on and on. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, that was good. Um,
Yeah, actually. Yeah, sir, go on.
no, I was I was trying to think back to your question if there's any like specific story,
Uh,
um, maybe outside of the office, but I don't know.
all right. And actually, like, that game has been on. I played it like last spring, like 2023, like mid-May, I think. And it's still one of my favorite single player games I've ever played, honestly. And just, I love everything about the game. Like, it was a really good 18-hour experience game. Like, it was a pretty juicy game, like, actually good. And I could go on and fanboy and about this game for the next 50 minutes, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm just going to say one thing, which is kind of relates to the context of what we're speaking, which is I love the amount of attention to details that was put into that were poured into that game, and especially I'm glad you mentioned actually the room. Right, he's the Star Wars in a room when he was a kid. You play that, like those sequences and levels could be like 5 to 12 minutes, 15 minutes max, right? Even though that was such a short part of the gameplay, but if we go and look around and see everything, the assets, the props, the details, the textures, the everything that was laid out, it was so much effort. Even though a lot of like for example, in that part of the game where you can actually walk around the house, go to the upper floor, the rest of the his mom's room,
Yeah,
I'm sure 90% of people didn't even go there. They just did that, go to the objective and do that and just progress the story. But I'm kind of like when I play video games, it's kind of funny. I treat it like I'm a tourist in that game and I take
yeah,
screenshots out of
yeah,
everything.
completely. Yeah, yeah,
And I explore everywhere, by the way. And I was like amazed by how much details and time and energy was put into this game just to make it perfect. And like when I see things like this, that's that I realize that, oh, this spreadsheet was done by a good team. You know.
Uh, yeah. Thank you. But yeah, we had the like concept art was well integrated with the narrative team, like Mary and Steve, and like I mean, I mean, okay, not even the visuals. If you just listen to all the banter, the useless banter throughout the whole games, it's
I love it. Oh
there's
my
some
god, I
great
love
stuff
that shit.
there. It's like like yeah, that that project gelled well. So I guess it shows.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being super honest, if I have to like be super nitpicky and like be hard on criticism, I think the two things that I personally like, it's my personal taste that I didn't like. I don't know, maybe it's my very personal preference, but I didn't like the face model of this actual Darth Starlord because it reminds me of some asshole real estate person I knew, and it kind of looks like that. And I'm like, oh god, really? That's just like
Well, I think yeah. So there was yeah. I'm not going to say debate, but I think that evolved a bit. But the point was to sort of make him feel, uh, let's call it like a nice asshole. So, or he's an
mm,
asshole, but with a big heart type of thing.
mm.
Maybe cocky. Maybe cocky would be a better word. So yeah, if he has sort of that face, maybe that works.
That's kind of punchable quality,
Yeah. And then,
Yeah,
but he kind of like Han Solo, right? He's
yeah, yeah.
a drug smuggling, selfish, and then but then he always ends up being like the good pirate, you know. Yeah, sorry for bringing that back to Star Wars.
No, it's
But
cool.
yeah,
They got Darth Vader as the background,
yeah,
like
of course.
like the additional feature. Yes, so that's fine. And another cool thing that was really, people liked, and it was one of the top comments on their Steam review was, they gave the game 10 out of 10 because they gave Drax's chest the jiggle physics, and people apparently loved that.
Sure,
And yeah, and
right there.
basically, yeah, exactly, that's a seller. But and basically, since last year, if people have been listening to my podcast, I've probably every at least 5 episodes, I'm no, not 5 episodes, but 10 episodes I've been mentioning multiple games. Like one of them was this game, another one was Fallout New Vegas. I never shut up about that for some reason. And the other one is Baldur's Gate 3. Like these games are absolutely amazing. I think it should be on everyone's list of games they should play before they die. Honestly, I have a list like that. And yeah, have you played the game yourself, by the way?
Uh, no,
Oh, you're not
Baldur's
into
Gate.
games that much.
Well, I find if you start investing in that, it takes time away from other endeavors,
Oh
and
yeah.
so I just kind of stopped a while ago. But yeah, like the last eh, the last game I probably really liked, and it's been a while, was sort of the Uncharted series because it wasn't necessarily places I'd been to, but it was done well enough that I could sort of it would remind me of all of these places I've been to, and like you say, you're kind of being a tourist within the game. So that struck a chord. Um,
Yeah,
but
like yeah, sorry, go on.
sorry, I think there's a bit of a lag, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying something. I think I interrupted you as well.
No,
All right.
I was gonna say like if you want to ask me like my favorite games, probably FIFA, not for the game, but it's sort of sort of a party game. You could have people
Comfort game.
over,
Yeah.
have a few beers, and you have something to do, and that's really cool. Because I like football, so that's where I go to. Or probably like the old point and clicks, like from the golden LucasArts days of Sam and Max, Monkey Island, that type of stuff. That was just lighthearted and a bit stupid, but in a way that I like. So
All right. And all right, here's an interesting question. who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Um, Ashley Wood, so Phil Hale, Drew. Yeah, Drew Struzan, he was a big influence at some point. Andre Franquin, so like fucking genius. He was the he was the one who drew, amongst other things, Gaston. Uh, Juan Jimenez, comic book artist, Simon Bisley, Jeff Darrow, Sean Gordon Murphy, Travis Travis Charest. He's probably pronouncing that in English though. Uh, Frank Lloyd Wright, John Lautner, Viollet-le-Duc. He did a lot of things that are questionable, but that sort of opened my eyes to sort of architecture and rehabilitating historical buildings as a profession. Malcolm Wells, uh, not very well known, but he was definitely a big influence on me getting into architecture. Phil Irving, motorcycles. Um, Lamino Bertoni. He did the Traction Avant, the DS, the H fan. He did the Deux Chevaux, so car design. Like, dude designed like four of the most iconic cars ever. Um, I don't know. Like, there's yeah. So I'm kind of scattering all over the place. There's some artists, some architects, some designers in there. Uh, I could go on, but let's stop there.
All right, sure, sounds good. And all right, so just to extend on top of that, also, like, just to ask a similar question, what area beside the area you're working in right now, which is of course, concept art and arts related, would you be interested to explore and learn in the future? Basically, what I'm trying to ask is, what other non-arts related stuff you got going on in your life right now?
I have too many interests, and so it's a question of picking where you want to put your efforts and sort of abandoning the other ones. Um, uh, I was in a few bands before. I really like music, writing, composing. That's something I would love to do. I'm really into history. I never I never went back to do my doctorate in history, but that's something I was looking into. Uh, and then I put that aside, but that's definitely something I would like to do. Um, I'm getting into, I guess you'd call it horticulture. I'm planting trees at the moment in the cottage for eventually, hopefully, distill some Calvados, which wouldn't be the case because it's a regional thing. So I think in English I would have to call it uh, apple brandy. But that's something I'm getting my hands into. Um, Writing movies, cartoons. Cartoons would be that doesn't count. It's artistic, right? Okay. There's so many things to occupy your time with. You just have to sort of literally tell yourself, I can't take something else on, and try to focus on the main things. But yeah, history,
All right,
uh,
sounds
music.
sounds a lot of fun stuff. Yeah. When you say music, like, what instrument do you play?
Uh, Guitar mostly.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously you're gonna play bass. I even ended up singing a few times. Tried to pick up the drums. Didn't put much effort into it, but I mean, it's all interesting. Um, Especially sort of the composing, like the composing side of it is appealing to me.
All right, interesting. And well, we've reached the final question and section of the podcast, which is called Time Capsule. And I think you mentioned before the podcast, like before we started recording, you mentioned that you've listened to a bunch of episodes, so I think you can get a sense of what this question is going to be like. But I'm going to say the question, that it basically is this: what are the most important life lessons you've learned thus far as a human that you could tell us? Like, what are the most important and just mm, really important things to you that you've learned till now that you can tell us, who the viewers, the listeners, whatever, and then who are listening to this podcast at any point of time in the future? Like, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't ask that. I don't know. I could come up with some generic answers. Um, Time is finite. Don't waste it. Try to put your efforts into something, and if it's only one thing, if it's five things, whatever, but don't burn your time away. It's not gonna. You can always make more money. You can always get another car, whatever it is that you're going. But your time, once it's gone, it's gone. And that's as generic an answer as you can get. But I think it's true. If you're developing yourself, if you're traveling, if you're there's plenty of viable options, but don't loaf around. Sorry, folks.
That's
That's
actually
all I got.
that's actually a great answer, because honestly, like, to be honest, I sometimes have existential crises myself and think about this stuff. But the conclusion I personally reached myself is I'm trying to live my life in a way that, when I finally reach my final moments, I'm like, I did something. I had an effect. Even after I died, there's a positive effect from me on this earth or planet or whatever in the universe.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm kind of really proud of and I enjoy doing is the podcast as well. Like, if, for example, tomorrow a bus runs me over, at least I recorded 200 905 episodes of knowledge for people to use for future forever, basically. And it's kind of like literally a time capsule as well. Like, that's how I view the podcast. So like that's why I've been able to do it for 4.5 years now without getting paid a single cent for it, by the way. um so yeah, you're like that your answer was really beautiful, to be honest. I really like that answer. Like, before, I used to get obsessive and OCD about like the movies I want to watch, the games I want to do. But recently, like, for example, I wanted to watch The Boys, like, on Amazon, right? And I don't know, maybe it's just something that happens when you get a little bit older. um like, I'll turn 27 in 3 days, by the way, so on July 2nd. and
Happy birthday.
thanks, man. And the thing is, right now, like, for example, about The Boys, I was like, and I always have this sense of guilt when I want to enjoy something, that there's a lot of things that I need to do in my backlog and things I need to get done. And instead, what I did, I went on YouTube, searched the video, watched the 20-minute video that recapped and explained the whole story from season 1 to season 4. And for some reason, I don't feel the need to watch like
Yeah.
40 hours of series. Like, I,
Like
you know what I mean?
I I completely agree, and that's kind of where I'm at too. Uh, but if cinema or I don't know, super hit, like
Games,
if it's if it's something you need to integrate, then you shouldn't necessarily feel guilty about watching 40 hours of The Boys, right? If you can sort of derive some sort of, I mean, sure, it's entertainment, but if some sort of knowledge, some sort of, I don't know, if it can make you grow, I think that might be a good way of putting it. If you're doing something that can make you grow, become better in one way or another, shit, go for it. But if you're just sitting down to waste time and watch a show,
yeah.
then maybe
Just
pick
because
something else.
everyone else is watching.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, for example, that's a great point, because I've always wanted to play the Half-Life games. I don't know if you played them, the Half-Life 1, the original one, and the Half-Life 2, like, because these are like revolutionary games in the history of video games. And as someone who's like really passionate about making games and being in the industry, there's certain games that you have to play, if you want to be in this ecosystem. And I went through all of them, like, actually recently, because I bought them like last year in a sale, and I finally got time and played them, and I didn't feel guilty about it because I knew, like, I would, like, when I play games right now, I play it in a way of like trying to absorb the
Yeah.
knowledge, and I take a lot of screenshots of textures and compositions and everything when I like play games, even online games. Like, my teammates are pushing objectives, and I'm just taking pictures of assets and textures.
Yeah. That's why I don't like playing multiplayers. I kind of do that too. Oh, screen grab, and then you like the game flow is completely ruined. But that's sort of not what I'm there for. So yeah,
Yeah,
I totally get it.
Yeah, for example, Valorant is doing a good thing. You can make a custom lobby, and you can be the only player in it, and you can enter fly mode and take as many pictures and references from their environments as much as you want. Like, I wish Valorant and CS:GO would do. I think CS:GO you can do that. I don't know. I'm not sure. But Valorant lets you do that, and I wish the rest of the games would do too. But yeah, and well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on this episode. I really appreciate it. And thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened or watched this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Leave a comment down below if you have any comments. What did I just say? I just had the brain fart. Jesus. If you have any suggestions or anything you want to say, or leave a comment down below. And with that being said, where can people contact you if they had any questions? By the way, is there an Instagram account okay?
Yeah, my Instagram account's okay. I usually use a Linktree. I don't know what's on there. Probably Instagram ArtStation.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure, Instagram's perfectly fine. I think
Right.
there's sort of a messages. It might take me a bit to get there, but I do end up checking all my messages.
All right. Well, there you have it. And do you have any final words before we close the episode?
Final words.
Anything?
This is
yeah.
No. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man.
Hope this goes. Bonne continuation. We'd say in French. Good continuation with your podcast.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
All
right. All right. Well, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Till next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.